Hello, hello, dear audience, and welcome back to Pharma Talks. Here we always explore the future. We always talk about the past and always sharing the exciting news. And I have a very interesting guest in our studio. He's not the first time with us, but it is a decent step into the end of the year. Welcome, Paul Tunnah. He was a founder of Pharma Forum and many more enterprises, the expert in healthcare communication, and just a very dear friend. Paul, welcome. How are you doing? Tell us a little bit about your feeling in the end of the year.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, first of all, great to be here, Natalia. Thank you so much. Always love these conversations. You're looking a little bit more festive than me with the decorations. I need to get some of that moving. But no, it's been a really busy year, I think, for everybody. And obviously for me, it's been a year of change. Recently emerged from stealth mode in my company View AI, so looking at content and the AI space. There's a lot going on. Have to give a bit of a shout out to Amiculum, who's our strategic agency partner and lead investor. But it's been a busy year for all of us in pharma, and I think we're starting to see some really good signs of change.
Exactly. So I think, first of all, congratulations, because nothing can develop the human professional spirit such a great deal as entrepreneurship. So it's just such a great move for everyone, and I'm really praising everyone going under that path, creating something new, something exciting for all of us. And yes, we are seeing change. So the entire year we were very busy on different fronts of digital transformation. Digital transformation of 2026. Does this ever even exist? What do you think?
Yeah, I know we talk about this maybe a little bit more depth later on, but we keep talking about digital transformation, and I'm starting to feel a little bit allergic to that word digital because we're getting kind of obsessed with technology and channels and all those kind of things. And it's about something much broader. You and I have spoken about it. It's about the people. It's about changing the way companies operate, and digital is part of that. But there's a lot more to it. And without the human change, you can't really achieve anything.
Exactly. The other day I was talking with Paul Sims, and we have brought a very interesting argument to the daylight. Paul just told, like, what if we create a balance between the time we spend talking about AI and we start investing our time talking about human? So what is the human role? So what is AI role? Everyone is about that right today.
Yeah,
But what the human? Where is the human? So what
yeah.
are we doing? So let us make this balance. Let us think about human a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And as you look at, and this is not just pharma, I think you look at a lot of industries and they think about transformation. The focus tends to be on the technology first and foremost. And technology, as you and I know, is incredibly powerful, particularly AI coming through. It's incredibly powerful where it's used in the right way, but it's not the starting point. The starting point has to be what is the problem you're trying to solve? Therefore, when you think about the solution, what change needs to happen? And then it's about how can technology fit into that. Don't start with throwing technology and thinking it can solve all the problems, which is probably an odd thing to say for somebody, rather like you, who's leading what is fundamentally a tech company. But don't underestimate the importance of that human factor.
There are a lot of things in the end of the year. Like end of the year is like usually this crucial time when you stop and you think about everything you are carrying on to the next one. And you are carrying on everything with the hopes, troubles, budget plannings, everything like entire year packed, carry on, repacked and revived for the next one. And whenever we are planning, and you're absolutely right, being a technology company, talking in the AI perspective, we have all these different angles, like AI security. So shall we invest? So our customers are starting to ask questions about these AI certifications, AI 42100, whatever policy. like my head of IT says, like, we budget some consultancy. I'm asking, do we have consultancy over the market? He says, no. So what we are budgeting for? Says, we don't know. Maybe there will be some. I say like there's a niche. So because everyone is talking
Sure.
about security, governance, leveraging of how this information will be treated, how even the code programmers are pushing to every, I don't know, like hubs, they are testing it with AI, whatever, how this is leveraged afterwards. Is this secure even for one's IP? So, and this is everything like needs to be budgeted now, the end of the year. So what do you think? So
Yeah, no,
like this problem is existing for us?
well, it's a really important point because there's you bring in AI and you bring in any new technology, there is a risk, and it's appropriate to look at that risk, and it's appropriate to look at data security and all those kind of things. But it makes me think of a parallel with the compliance within content, which is a space you and I know extremely well, which is you need to look at it, you need to make sure you're compliant, you need to assess your risk, but there's a balance there. It's risk and reward. And you've also got to look at the reward side of that equation. So if you believe there is a particular problem that AI can help to solve in collaboration with the people, there's an upside there. So don't just look at it and go, we can't do this, it's too risky, we need to look at all these things. Find a way to do that, because if you enable that, the reward is very significant. And I would always challenge every company to look at it that way. You're absolutely right to consider the risks, but think about the reward, and also think about the risk if you're not embracing some of these new technologies and your competitors are, because that is also a risk.
Yeah, I think now we have some variations because even talking about these, calculated risks now as IT organizations which are developing the products. So now even working with some GitHubs, with Copilots
Yeah,
and with other tools, you have now the choice. You can have a choice. Either you want to share your knowledge and LLMs of the world, which LLMs will be having all the freedom to train on your data, on your produced code, or you can, however, protect this environment and you can just leverage the, you know, relevancy of the code and its quality, but you are not really breaking any IP rights or anything. So I think we are now at this stage where the tools and the rules are appearing, not only showing us the opportunity, but also protecting us from being copied, being somehow manured or outbuilt by other LLMs. We are now at a very interesting time where building the new technology, building the new processes with AI, we have the choice, and the choice costs you money. So if you pay more, you're more protected.
yeah, and there's also a discussion to be had around, really understanding what is your IP and what is exclusive to you and makes a difference versus what is slightly more generic than that. So again, you look at the content space. There are certain bits of data that will tell you what content works, what doesn't, and there are some fairly generic things you can apply across all kinds of different companies. So I do think there's a degree of open innovation here, rather like you've seen in the R&D space, and then you need to work out at what point that becomes your IP and something specific to you. But the other point, just to backtrack to what you were saying, is this is where I think it's really important that these decisions are made by not just the IT folks, but the IT folks in collaboration with the business leaders, because they're the ones that see that sort of downstream application, that reward, also have a view on what is more confidential and bespoke to that company rather than just a little bit more generic.
And this is a very important point of view, taking into consideration, have started the new AI enterprise. So that's a very good angle how, as a leader, you're treating this problem. So, like from the
Yeah.
security perspective, from the perspective of the customers and everything, right? Great.
Yeah, exactly. And I find it a really interesting space because I've been at a couple of summits recently with a company called True Blue, Italian company using AI in CRM and customer engagement, and they keep asking this question around: is it revolution or evolution with AI? which I think is a really interesting question because technology is moving so quickly, as you know, that if it was just down to the tech, it'd be revolution. All these companies would change overnight how they're operating. But
Yeah.
then you have to think about the data these systems feed off and security and the workflow and change management and taking people with you. And that's the bit that takes time. So I think it's more of a gradual evolution over time.
Yeah, and as nicely said, taking people with you, right? Because this is very important. Even even when inside one organization we have a huge debate which type of AI to use for different purposes. And my goodness, we do not have the decision yet because everyone else having their own, preferences because this model is better than the others. This is for designers. This is for coders. This is
Yeah.
for people who are working with the clients, and everyone is very unique and specific. So, and this is like a very, very interesting time again. So what type of the governance we are able to create in this space?
Yeah, and I think companies, and I know, we think about this, but I think companies need to think about not getting too obsessed with the models themselves. And don't get me wrong, they are important, but if you are thinking about systemic change, it's more about where that fits into the workflow, taking people with you, how you scale that, and thinking about embedding technology that can be adapted to different models if you need to make that change, almost sort of plug a different one in, rather than being too beholden to one.
Exactly, exactly. So this is really important. So this, change. The interesting fact, as providers, we are providing the technology which is cutting edge AI, and as users we are also turning the corner and we also have the internal change. So, and this is like, it's like a double movement. You are moving on your own and you are moving forward. So
Yeah.
I'm always comparing of this movement, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting
Yeah,
exercise.
and it's, as you know, it's perpetual beta is the phrase. You're constantly developing, you're constantly tweaking, and this for me is one of the reasons why. And again, I'm biased on this. You're probably biased on this, but it's one of the reasons why I don't think big companies should try and build bespoke systems because that implies something rather more static. And this technology is moving so quickly that if they're working with the right external partners, we spend every day obsessing about this and thinking about how can we make this better? What's the next evolution? What's the feedback we're getting? And you need that constant evolution in these systems because they're never finished.
Yeah. And this is the sense of evolution, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
I'm about to step into this, very fruitful topic of the discussion, the customer engagement and the
Yep.
reality of 2026, value, relevance, new customer mindset, and new generation of customers.
Yep.
So, what does meaningful engagement look like in 2026 for you and your new organization? So, how you think about that?
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, something else I did this year was wrote a book with my good friend Faisal Ahmad about customer experience, and it's about accepting the reality of where we are now, which is people are bombarded with so much stuff and there's so much noise out there. And it's easy to get involved in doing the same thing. It's easy for companies to think about throwing more channels at things and more noise and winning that share of noise. But I think you really have to break it down. I don't think this is new for 2026. I think this has been true for a few years. You really have to break it down to how can you make it really easy for your customers to engage with your product and what you're doing? How can you cut through that noise? How can you deliver a message that stands out, that is giving them exactly what they need? And how can you be building trust? So I do see this gradual shift as we think about customer engagement, moving away from this focus on channels and share of noise to back to the message and the quality of the message and how we can be impactful, build trust, create genuine connection.
Like it's I think very timely as well because with we have been talking about technologies a moment ago. So technologies gives us now like the a full visibility on the voice of customer, on the patient voice, on everything what is happening on social media. We have the access throughout like the decades of information, and we can really make sure that our information is somehow related to the voice of our customer. So this is not, it's already not very subjective. It's already very much matchable, disciplines, the product voice and the voice of the, I don't know, company we want to deliver to the customer, and the customer personas, customer
Yep.
talkings, customer representation in the social media. If I may say, the technology is there, and we just need to take our people with us to that journey, right?
I think that's true, but I think we also have to step back a bit because there's been this sort of ever present obsession with hyper-personalization, n equals 1 with these customers. And in theory, we do have the data if the data is clean, and that's a whole separate topic, but we do have the data there to take it to that level. But I would argue we need to step back a bit and go even at a higher level. If we talk about, larger chunks of customer segments, if you like, is the quality of our message consistent enough and good enough? And that's not a critique of the strategic agencies. They do fantastic work at positioning, narrative, etc. But when you then take that positioning and that creative and you think about the myriad of different channels and being consistent and taking that to different personas, even if you've only got 4 or 5 different customer personas, I think we have to challenge and say, are we getting that piece right with the content? Is it cutting through the noise? Is it connecting? Is it building trust? And if we're not getting that piece right, let's focus on that first before we try and do this hyper personalization, because it's not going to work otherwise.
Exactly. I have been reading about many experiments which are unfortunately failing on this hyper personalization
Yeah.
task, even with the including AI, right? So and more, like everyone with whom we are discussing this topic, the latest was the conversation with Nico Renner. So he was also for segmentation. So
Yeah.
segmentation on the better level. So because we are basically never able to deliver the relevant message to one persona, we need to deliver it to the right segment, to the group of people. So from the technical perspective, to make it work, otherwise we have all ability to create the AI persona based on the particular segment, and
Yeah.
in that way streamline the messages creation, right? So
Yeah.
but this is a technical way to tackle the thing. And some, my personal opinion, sometimes we take this technical way as the way to go forward and starting to hyper personalize just straightforward to the person, not to the persona, to the person. So
Yeah.
that's maybe working for rare diseases or some, specific areas, but not actually for the entire industry.
Yeah, and I think there's a few things. I think you're right. I think there's a few things to remember within that picture, which is, first of all, personas are not static. Physicians and indeed patients can move between personas as their situation changes or, HCPs become more comfortable with medicines. The second is introducing this dynamic element, which is, getting content out there for personas, but optimizing that, getting feedback, being able to optimize that. And that's not always easy. And then the third piece, which I think is probably more where the field force comes into this, is they're the ones that are sitting in front of these doctors and having to understand which bit of the material do they need to present, what's relevant to them. To me, it's comparable to a doctor sitting in front of a patient, looking at the clinical trial data and going, well, actually, which bits of this are important for this patient? So that level of personalization, where you have a rep in front of a doctor, we shouldn't forget about. We need to arm them with the right materials, the right content, but they're trying to think very carefully about what exactly meets that situation.
Yes, relevancy beyond all. I want to make this analogy. So recently was looking at some short video of Elon Musk going on the one-wheel bike out of the some fair. So
Oh, I
it
saw
was,
that. Yeah.
yeah, it was so, simple. It was so easy. And this looks like personalization exercise. It's such a clear exercise. It's like very much the same as going on this one-wheel bike. I
Yeah.
think it looks easy, even elegant, and really simple, that in fact we need to consider a lot of things,
Yeah.
including relevancy of the information we are sharing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then being able to adjust that and optimize, which, is still very challenging for a number of companies.
Yeah, so the ecosystems we are building, they must be intelligent enough to give us the feedback and make sure we are learning some, so like to make sure we adopt, we learn, we change. So like we're just not having like dashboards in the sake of dashboards and insights in the sake of
Yeah.
insights. So
Yeah.
we need to be able to learn something from the things we are doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's always, I think, a value in there's a danger in getting lost in big data. You can do reams and reams of market research and take that to the nth degree where you think you really understand your customer. And then you'll sit in front of a doctor or a patient and they'll say something that you don't get from any of that data. So, maintaining that connectivity, listening, responding, reacting continues to be really important.
Exactly. So that's the truth. So that's where we need to focus. And I think 2026 is still like I cannot see us on this one wheel bike yet. So whether I think this might be the reality we will face in a couple of years. Let us see.
Yeah.
We'll live,
Yeah.
wait, and see. Right. I have a very interesting part of the conversation, which is requiring very simple, short answers, hot or not.
Yep.
So I have how many? I have only 7 statements.
Okay.
Very, some of them very naive, some of them just very obvious. But the only answer you need to say, if you believe in that, it's hot. If this is something you rather will skip, it's not. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go. So the first one, generative AI taking over 70% of pharma content production.
Oh, I'd love to say hot, but I'm going to have to say not yet. I think we can get there, but in 2026, no, because I think it's a bit of a journey down to the people factor and kind of, taking people with us on that journey.
Yeah. And we still have a holy blessed 2026 where agency survive.
Yes.
This second one, engagement strategies designed with patient first in mind and HCPs in second.
Oh, I'm going to sound like the Christmas Grinch. Again, I'd love to say hot, but I still think not because, outside of the US and New Zealand, as well as I do, it's very limited how you can engage with patients. So a lot of engagement strategies are based around HCPs, and I think will stay that way. However, I would add a caveat, which is, I've always felt this companies that understand patients and different types of patients will have a massive, massive advantage when it comes to engaging with HCPs, who are typically the prescribing decision makers.
Excellent answer. Thank you. So the third, commercial and medical teams building content together, not in silos.
I'm going to go really positive on that one because I already see that happening in some companies. I see them working more closely together, obviously compliantly, but there's a lot they can do. And sometimes companies say, oh, we can't do that for compliance, but it's not the reality. So I think that's really hot for next year.
Yeah, and that also brings on the data level, if we will be using the same data, commercial, medical together, so the
Yeah,
content piece will be just, as relevant as we want it.
exactly. Consistent story.
Yeah, very consistent story. The fourth one, social channels becoming more influential than medical congresses.
Oh my goodness. I mean, for many years I've been an advocate of social media, but I'm going to say not. And I say not because we need that human interaction. Social channels are great for just sharing information, but if you want to know what it means, people need to meet up, they need to discuss stuff. So I think medical congresses are having a real resurgence post-COVID.
Yes, post-COVID, they are really, really reviving. They're really working very well. People valuing seeing each other, talking to each other. So that's so true now, so true. Hyper-personalization is fading. Segmentation is retaining stronger.
I've got to say hot, because we've touched on this topic already, and you know, everyone is getting obsessed with n equals 1, but if the n equals everyone from a content perspective isn't working, fix that first. So segmentation, hot.
Great, great. It's like we have discussed that, and that's very true. So the segmentation is going to be this, hyper personalization competitor. Well, companies are replacing channel mix with the relevant story architecture.
This may be wishful thinking, but I'm going to say hot. My aim for a long time has been, please stop talking about channels and please start talking more about the story. And I do see it happening. So hot on that one.
Yeah, so that's a wishful thinking. What it is, everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see a meaningful dialogue, a
Yeah.
story, right? So everyone
Yeah.
wants to see just not a pushed message through the channel, so like a story. And the last one, content teams are shifting from production to editorial leadership.
Again, I'm going to go hot on that because I've actually seen some companies doing that for a long, long time, you know, building calendars, building stories. I still think the challenge remains of taking that down to all the content fragments, different channels, different personas. But I think there's a real mindset shift that we've already seen there. So that is definitely hot.
Excellence. Paul, thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for answering. Thank you for this nice conversation. So we have been going through the hypes, through the trends, and talking about clarity. I taken this message with me that we need to take all people with us, right? And this is the speed we go in 2026. Again, congratulations on your new business. So that's give it a very nice 2026 and many years to come. And for everyone who's listening us today, please stop for a moment. Think about what do you see in 2026 for you, for your career, for pharma as an industry, and as a good supporter and true friend to the patients. So thank you very much. And Paul, let us stay focused, energized in 2026. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much. Always love the discussion.
Thank you, Paul.